what the first 3 symptoms of using your intuition as outtuition are. Hello, whoever's there. And then I'm going to talk to you about this 4th symptom of using your intuition as outtuition, which we're going to explore a little bit more today. Okay, so on Tuesday, we went over the first, hello, Selena, the first symptom, which is over emotional misunderstandings. Okay, and everything else kind of feeds into that. So that's the key one. When you're intuitive, maybe you're like, yeah, why does it seem like there's so much more drama in my life? Surely if you're intuitive, it should be more peaceful, right? Why is it not that way? That is what we're looking at. So one of the reasons why is the 2nd symptom, number 2, is feeling everything personally. And we've looked into all the different ways that you can do that over the past couple of days as well, because it's not just what you might think. So do check back for those videos. They are on my business page if you can't find them. Okay, number 3 is knowing your own reality. And this kind of ties in to what we're going to talk about today. So we had a great live on that yesterday. And again, it's not always how you might just be interpreting that on the surface, but you really will need to go and look at the video if you haven't seen it and caught it live, because it's too much to go through every lesson every day. And today we are looking at believing you are right because you are intuitive, which leads to dangerous assumptions or judgment calls. Who here has done that at all? Andrew, thank you. I have. Yes, you don't need to worry. I've worked out how to do it. Bless your heart. Andrew's just asking about sharing because I was not right about how to share these on Facebook, but I've worked it out now, so no, you don't have to miss it. So anyway, moving on. Right, today, what do I mean about believing you're right because you're intuitive? Well, if you value yourself as an intuitive, then being proved wrong can feel like a threat to your whole entire being. What if somebody proves you wrong? Does that leave you in tatters, feeling like, oh no, I can't trust my intuition? And so then does it mean like I'm intuitive, I'm right, and therefore that's it, because it's almost as if there's deliberate assumptions being made just to protect ourselves from that extreme fear of being made wrong. Yes. Now, if we look at Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements, as you know, I bring them a lot into my work, and he says there's one agreement that if you just practiced one agreement of those 4 agreements, the one that it should be is not to make any assumptions, and that with that one agreement practiced, you can cut out the whole of the drama and sadness and misunderstandings in your life. So this is one of the many reasons why when you're intuitive, it can actually seem harder to have a life that doesn't have misunderstandings, drama, and sadness. So how do you actually cut that out? Yes, does anybody resonate? Anybody have any of these stories or symptoms? Before we look at how to cut it out, I'm going to give you an example. I have been racking my brains for the times that I've thought that I'm right and I'm not right. And I have to say, there isn't many. I'm sure there's probably much more than I'm aware of, but I found it really hard. A few occasions with my husband, because he makes that point to me, but really there isn't a lot that I'm aware of. It doesn't mean there isn't a lot. So it could be that I'm really suffering with this symptom that we're talking about right now. But one of those times was pretty funny, and it was when when I went to Chichen Itza, I've just posted about it on social media. And in case anybody been there, done that, Chichen Itza or believing that you're right. This is Chichen Itza in case anybody doesn't know what Chichen Itza is. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world and is in Mexico and is linked to the Mayans and therefore Mayan astrology as well, as you can probably tell by the hint of this sun going here. So I went there on my birthday, which happens to be the day that the Mayan calendar started, according to some, 11th of August. Now, obviously, I look very good for my age because it was a very long time ago. I went there on my birthday in 2016, and Chichen Itza is a pretty ominous place. It's got a powerful, almost oppressive, not even almost, it is oppressive. It's got a huge power to it. I mean, Chichen Itza means water magician. Okay, and so the power of this place is strong, and also probably because you see this little hole up there, that was where heads would roll, and they'd bounce all the way down here, and that was an honor because it would be the winner of the football match that they'd done. Chichen Itza is basically a football stadium. It's like Wembley, yes, but the prize that they were fighting for was to be sacrificed because that was the highest honor that they could ever have. And so heads would roll down here. Now, when I went there, being an intuitive, and we'd just come from the football part of the stadium, and I was walking the path to the pyramid as if I was, being sacrificed, I guess. That is the path the winner would have taken from the football part to here to have his head chopped off. And I was walking along there on my birthday, and I felt something sting my toe, and I threw myself back on my back. It was heaving with tourists, and I had my legs akimbo in the air, and I screamed and screamed, "Help, help, I've been stung by a scorpion and I'm going to die." And I was totally convinced that I'd been stung by a scorpion because I was in Mexico and I was going to die. And I had somehow got myself totally in the energy of sacrifice, the psychic energy. I'd worked myself up somehow so strongly that I was 110% convinced that I was going to die on my birthday at Chichen Itza, which is pretty cool. But there we go. It was a bee, by the way. So didn't I feel stupid, but loved when the crowds came running around me and swarming around me like bees to find it was a bee. So, that's a pretty funny story, but there are, of course, a lot of stories that aren't necessarily that funny. As that saying, when we make assumptions, yes, makes an ass out of you and me. And Andrew saying he's been there and done that, thought he was right. I'm sure we all have a few times in our lives. So how do we stop that, particularly as intuitives, where we get so tuned in to the over emotional feelings, taking everything in personally, soaking it all up, and knowing our own reality? How do we know that? Those are the lives that I've done the last few days on that. Well, now it's a case of how does that feed into, knowing what is right. One of the things to get very comfortable with as an intuitive is not knowing. It's really important to not know. I have no idea why that happened at Chichen Itza. Maybe it was just a random thing. Maybe it was my own past life connection, or maybe I was tuning in to the energies, yes, and it was nothing to do with me, apart from the fact that I soak up collective consciousnesses. So I don't actually know, and I'm okay with not knowing. And that is the thing that is healthy when you are an intuitive, is to suspend judgment and the need to be right. Now, how do we do that? I'm going to give you a very quick tip on how to do that. And that is to actually just suspend judgment and always go for the curiosity and the questioning. Always question. And that means other people as well. You know, when we go back to the third agreement of Don Miguel Ruiz, 4 agreements, the third one is not to make assumptions. And he explains, ask for what you need. But a lot of intuitives don't, because they use it as a defense. I'm intuitive and I'm not going to be proved wrong, and I'm, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they get very angry if they're lied to as well. Like that was I'm talking about myself here, by the way, so don't take it personally. I definitely would get very angry if I was being lied to. And it's something to do with August the 11th as well. If you're born on that day, you dig for the truth. So I've had a lot of training on being okay with not knowing, and yeah, I would get very angry, and I'd start wanting to expose that person for lying, and it would almost become obsessive, really, really obsessive. Now I'm a lot more gentler with it, and I know when someone's lying to me through questioning. Now this is interesting, isn't it? Because it's this I know, I'm intuitive thing again, but let me just explain. Because when I question them and they give me an answer and I'm confused, I just mirror that back to them. And I will say, I'm confused because earlier you said this and now you're saying this, and then the truth will out. So it's when I'm confused by what somebody is saying to me, that is a signal that it is likely that they're not telling the truth. But again, it's questioning. It's just keep on throwing it back to them, and you know, just really be in that place of like what Brené Brown says as well, that if you get upset about something, to say to someone, when this happened, the story I told myself was, again, you're not saying you're right, but you're opening up that two-way communication. And the 5th agreement, there is a 5th agreement of Don Miguel Ruiz, and that is to not believe yourself or anyone else. Yes. So it's a case of also, say you open up that conversation, yes, and they tell you something, it doesn't mean that you have to believe it. And it doesn't mean you have to believe yourself either. It's all about being okay with not being right or not knowing. And when you do that and you go into questioning and curiosity and letting go of the judgments, that is when everything in your life realigns and becomes a lot healthier. We will be doing a lot of this work when we go back to Chichen Itza. I'm saying we, are you coming? I'm taking a group back here next month. For New Year, we're going to be from Epiphany, which is the meaning of Tiffany, on the 6th of January to the eclipse, the last eclipse of the season on the 11th. And the eclipses were really strong in Mexico. The Mayans really believed that they were like big ominous signs from the gods of end of the world, and the things they did to their babies because of it was quite intense. But yeah, there's some powerful energies, shall we say. So it sounds pretty ominous, maybe a little scary, but what I will say is it's one of the most profound and magical places I have ever been, and I have ever seen with my eyes and ever felt with my soul, for really getting to know what is my stuff. And that's what these 10 lives are about. It's about getting to know your stuff so that you can actually start to live your life in a way that it works, yes, as an intuitive. So if you want to know more about this, do reach out, because time is coming.